Today we're going to discuss how to string a violin. One string at a time, first of all. And we're going to do this right now. I'm going to change the G string first, the low string. This violin has 4 tuners, so we're going to just use the peg right now. Start with the low end, start with the G string. Peg comes right off the peg. Remove it from the fine tuner. Take your new string, hook it into the tailpiece, and at this point you need to find the hole in the peg in here, and you need to be real careful not to cross over this D string, obviously, okay? So we're going to go in the G, we've got to pull the peg back to get this hole, wrap around one time. I like to cross over itself so it secures it, like that. And I also like to finish up over on this side of the peg box when I'm putting the string on. And I'll tell you why. If you finish up like that, there's no way that peg is going to pull out. When I see strings that are way over here and finish up like that, it's basically trying to pull that string out. You see that? So by all means, start it to the right and bring it back to the left. And I don't think you should squish it in there and pile it in the corner. But you do want to finish up next to the peg box wall, like that. That just keeps the peg from slipping out as easily. So you get it close with the peg, and then you go to the fine tuner for fine tuning. Now, one thing to remember, as you put a new string on, it's pulling everything that way. So you need to keep an eye on the bridge to make sure the bridge isn't leaning forward. It typically will when you change strings. You need to keep one hand back here and just ever so slightly make sure it comes back a little bit so it's still upright. Bridges will first start to lean and eventually they'll start to warp, and then you have to replace them eventually. So if you keep an eye on that bridge every time you change your strings and make sure it's upright when you're done, it's not going to start that forward motion that's inevitable if you don't pay attention to your bridge. So let's go with the next string, the D string, one at a time. We move through. Same thing, you hook it into the tailpiece first. And I put it in here, go around and cross over itself and back towards the peg box wall. Make sure it's in here. I also like to put a little bit of lead in here. I take a pencil and I put a little bit in the bridge slot. And what that does, it keeps the string from pulling the bridge. It gives it some slide across that bridge, so it's not going to do that so bad. So get the D string relatively in tune, one string at a time. Keep moving to the right. I take the A string off. Take a new A string. As we said, always hook it into the tailpiece first and get it secure there, and then we go to the peg box. As usual, around itself one time, and moving to the right, finish up at the peg box wall. Check the bridge, get a little bit of graphite on there, and you're good to go. Settle in a little bit there. One more string, the E string, the final string. Always drop the ball end in first. And again, remember here, on the E string, much like the G, don't cross over that A. You see the holes over here, but if I start cranking now, I'm going to be crossing right over the A string. Okay? So you have a little opening, you pull the peg back, you find a little opening right there. And then you wrap. Move to your right, and once again, we finish up at the peg box wall on the E string. A little bit of graphite on the bridge, and there you have it. Out of tune, but new strings.